Canadian truckers are protesting, as many of you know, vaccine mandates. Just breaking today, Ontario's premier has declared a state of emergency for the entire province, and Ottawa police have braced for thousands of protesters to descend for the third consecutive weekend. USA Today also reported the convoy could disrupt the Super Bowl, Biden's State of the Union, etc. The protest has been self-titled the Freedom Convoy and has been underway since January 29th. It appears it has spanned several thousand vehicles across the country, and the truckers are blocking key roadways and bridges, including the Ambassador Bridge. They're seeking an end to Canada's vaccine mandates, and it feels like this is now morphing into something a little bit wider than just vaccine mandates. Maybe it's becoming a Occupy Wall Street type of protest, open to many people with many different things that they have grievances about. A reporter from Bari Weiss's Common Sense newsletter / media operation wrote what the truckers want.
Jason, you just nailed it. I do think that this is actually Occupy Wall Street
2.0, yeah.
Look, it turned out, just to root some facts, so it's not just truckers. This is a broad-based coalition of people across every single race and gender and age group in Canada that's participating in this thing. In fact, the Bari Weiss article, she profiled men, women of all ages, Sikhs, whites, everybody, blacks. There's a coalition of people. Second is this really isn't about vaccination rates, because it turns out truckers are 90% vaccinated. They're vaccinated at a higher percentage than the actual broad-based population of Canada, which is about 78%. I think the point of this, and again, I care about this so much as a Canadian, but I just want to read a quote from Justin Trudeau, because I think it encapsulates what this is really about. The quote is, "The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa, who are holding unacceptable views that they are expressing, do not represent the views of Canadians." And I think it's that phrase, unacceptable views, that really points to what the real issue here is, which is that there are a lot of people who now say it's been 2 years, enough with mask mandates, enough with all of this, almost police state that's developed, all of the emergency use power that politicians have taken. Let's reclaim our democracy and let's have, freedom again. And under the political viewpoint of the ruling Liberal Party, which, by the way, is now going into revolt as well. A bunch of Liberal MPs have just completely flipped because of this statement. It summarizes what Trudeau is saying, which is, what you believe is unacceptable to me, and so now I will quash you.
Or that Canada has one viewpoint. Friedberg?
Did any of you guys listen to the New York Times Daily podcast that our friend sent out the link to this morning?
Yes.
To me, these are the same story. It was actually an interview with a reporter who highlighted some work that she had done and identified that Phil Murphy, the Democratic governor of New Jersey, had done some polling and some focus group discussions with some of his constituents. And the overriding tone was one of emotion, one of feeling left out of the life that they believe they should have been living over the past 2 years. And ultimately, I think the tone speaks very clearly to what the truckers are saying, which is everyone feels more than ever incredible overreach into their personal lives by the government. And by different governments, whether it's local or federal here in the US, or by this Canadian government, or, go to Australia or the UK, and the sentiment seems to be similar everywhere. I don't think that any time since World War II have we seen the government create such restrictions and such mandates in democratic republics like the United States that we just saw over the past 2 years. And I think the fact that it's continuing when folks are now seeing, on the ground every day, the mildness of Omicron, or the challenges that their kids are facing in school. And you kind of put these things together and you say to yourself, why is my government restricting my life and causing the challenge that I'm being forced to face? For what? And I think that's a tone that everyone feels everywhere in the West today. I think in the East, it's a little bit different, right? Because of the mindset there. But I think here it's
collectivism.
Collectivism. And I think here we pride individual liberty and freedom. as kind of the foundation of these democracies, to have the government tell us what we have to wear, shots we have to put in our arms, where we can go and when, how we can behave in ways that were never legislated, in ways that were never kind of debated and discussed publicly. It just feels overreaching at this point. I think everyone's hit their breaking point. And this is another one of these examples. This trucking thing is another one of these examples of people manifesting their breaking point.
And Sacks, to the point we've been discussing over and over again, things have changed radically since the beginning of the pandemic. You believed in mask mandates early because, hey, no downside. We talked about that. And we didn't want hospitals to be overrun, which is reasonable. Right? You wanted to have oxygen. We were all, trying to make plans for, hey, how bad is this going to be? But we're sitting here 2 years later, and it's pretty clear Omicron, which I had, thank you, Sacks, is a nothing burger, as we said here. Thanks, Sacks.
Thanks a lot, Sacks.
Saxacron.
I helped you.
Saxacron made me a superhero. Thank you.
All I've ever gotten is sick when I've been around you.
Yeah, I went to Sax's party, and all I got was an $8,000 gift bag and Omicron. The gift bag's pretty great at Sax's parties.
I think getting Omicron helped you because it enabled you to see that this, for you, was largely a nothing burger. And so you could come out of your house and start acting normal. I think there's a lot of people all over the country who are like that.
You were saying that? You haven't left your house for 2 years.
Do you remember the photos of Sacks at the beginning of COVID when he was wearing the triple mask and the goggles?
He was scared to death. He ran to Mexico and built a fort.
Yeah.
He Colonel Kurtz did.
Well, look, I supported mask mandates at the beginning of the pandemic when Fauci was telling us masks didn't work. Let's not forget that. I was supporting when the health officials told us they didn't work. Why? Because it was the only thing we had. We didn't have vaccines.
David, come on. He was doing us a favor by lying to us. By his own admission, he said, "I lied to you so that we could preserve these masks for frontline workers." Well, thank you, Anthony Fauci.
One of many noble lies that he's been telling.
Here we go.
He's a noble liar. He's a noble liar.
By May of 2020,
He's my biggest political loser. Pick from 2020. Go on.
Take it easy on your picks. I know you want to do your victory lap. It's only February. Give us till June for the check-in. Okay, Colonel Kurtz, continue.
Masks were the main alternative to lockdowns. That's the way I saw it in the summer of 2020. And I was saying, end these crazy lockdowns, just do masks. And then once we had the vaccine, end all COVID restrictions. That was a year ago. And now we still have these restrictions a year later. And that is what the truckers are rebelling against. Just like you said, these are ordinary people who are sick and tired of having to show their papers and have to deal with these mandates. And for that, they've been absolutely demonized. I mean, Trudeau comes out and says that they're basically white supremacists and racist and homophobic. Every epithet he can throw at them.
Sorry, to your point, he did use every ism. He really did try to cancel them at first. And this is what's really painted him in a corner. He went on national TV and he said, these people are racists and misogynists. That's specifically what he said. And it actually turned out that the overwhelming majority of them were not. They were just normal, ordinary, law-abiding Canadians who were just fed up with the overreach. Right. And then what happened was the polling said you should bring these convoy leaders in, sit them down and talk to them. And then the political calculus, though, was impossible for him because he had already called them racist and misogynist. So then how could he bring them in? Right,
exactly. Yeah, how do you negotiate with Nazis, basically?
So then what he did was he ran out of Ottawa. So instead of staying in Ottawa, now he's in a secure location for his safety.
Oh, my God. Oh, he feels unsafe. So trigger warning. But in fairness, when you bring 8,000 people together and you get a wide enough group of people, there was SWAT stickers and white Confederate flags that were flown. So it might have been 2 of 8,000, but that did happen.
Within any protest movement.
Which I just said, yes.
Within any protest movement, there's always going to be a handful of people who go too far and are too extreme. But they did not represent the vast, vast majority of the people who turned out, which are ordinary citizens. And Trudeau seized on a handful of isolated examples to try and demonize these guys. And I think it's blowing up in his face. The fact of the matter is the truckers did not start this fight. It's the zealotry of our elites, of our professional class that started this fight. They will not give up on these mandates. That's the fundamental problem.
Well, and while they go to the Super Bowl with no mask on.
I think what you're seeing here with this trucker thing, I think it's going to have huge ripple effects because it's showing the schism in the Democratic Party between the professional elites and the working class. Here you have the working class. Remember, these were the essential workers. These are the people bringing us our food. Most of them have already had COVID over the last couple of years. They couldn't sit behind a computer and do their job in their pajamas on Zoom all day. Okay. So these guys know the reality of COVID, just like you learned the reality, Jason, when you actually got it. And yet we've got this neurotic class of professionals within the Democratic Party who are these COVID dead enders, don't want to give this stuff up. And that's the fundamental divide. And I think Biden's going to have to choose, which side are you on? Are you on the side of the working class or the professional class? Trudeau has chosen his side. He is the effete elite face of these COVID dead enders. And Biden's going to have to choose who he supports.
And those are dwindling. You have governors now who are Democratic governors in many states who are saying, listen, Omicron is obviously different. And look at the charts, look at the data. We don't
have
need
to
masks.
talk about this New York Times story on how New Jersey and several other of these blue states dropped the mask mandates. It was absolutely extraordinary.
I mean, it's not extraordinary. The risk assessment is different, David.
What was extraordinary about it is that...
I mean, I think it's kind of obvious more than extraordinary. If Omicron is less deadly, it's an upper respiratory, doesn't kill people who are vaccinated, and most people are vaccinated, pretty obviously it's time to pivot and open everything up. It sounds like an obvious decision.
Biden really missed his moment here. So I think, like Friedberg said, it was Phil Murphy. He's the Democratic governor of New Jersey. He was supposed to have an easy reelect, win by 20 to 30 points. He narrowly squeaks by 2 to 3 points. Okay. So then he conducts the focus groups to find out, what did we miss? Why were we so off on this thing? And they find out that people are sick and tired of these mandates. He goes to the White House, okay, and shows these findings and says, guys, we have to get off this losing position on COVID. And the White House sits on his hands and does absolutely nothing. So Murphy is like, we can't wait anymore. So he unilaterally goes without White House support. This is all in the New York Times article. This is not like some right-wing publication saying this, okay? So he unilaterally says, okay, we're getting rid of the mask mandate, okay? And then 5 other states do the same thing because they realize we can't wait anymore. And Biden is just nowhere to be found. And Psaki is saying, well, we're deferring to the CDC. They're deferring to, Rachel Walensky at the CDC and Randy Weingartner at the teachers unions and these health officials like Barbara Ferrer in LA County, all of whom are saying we cannot lift these mandates yet. They don't want it. So they are completely on the wrong side of this. And then Biden really steps in it by saying to Trudeau and Canada, listen, you guys got to clear this bridge. Do whatever you need to do to clear this bridge. Basically implying that the civil disobedience needs to be met by force. And then you've got Harvard professors and CNN analysts saying, slash their tires, take away their trucking licenses, starve them out, So this has been the response. And the response to that is now there's a trucker convoy getting started in the U.S. and they're going to march on Washington. They're going to drive to Washington.
Great.
And between now and then, Biden better figure out what side he's going to be on. Because if he doesn't handle this right, I think it's going to be the end of his presidency.
Peaceful civil disobedience is fine as long as they're not blocking ambulances, getting people to and from hospitals. That's fine, especially the unvaccinated
but
on
Joe
respirators.
Biden, is this Scranton Joe, the guy who said he would take us back to normalcy, the representative of the working class? Is that who the president of the United States is, or is he in the Trudeau camp? The Fauci and the Walensky and the Barbara Ferrers,
and easily influenced.
I think you're asking a rhetorical question. I think that the polling data makes the answer pretty clear, which is that the Democratic Party is lurching towards establishment insiders, and working, normal, ordinary people have, in larger and larger numbers, started gravitating to the Republican Party. Minorities, in far larger numbers than we ever expected, have started lurching towards the Republican Party. And so the answer is sort of in the polling data and what the actual facts on the ground have been. We forget because we were all so ready to cast away our Trump derangement syndrome. But he did get, I think, 9 million more people to vote for him in this past election?
The working class, whether it's the white working class or the non-white working class, are moving in huge numbers. I think the margin of non-white working class who moved to the Republicans the last election was 18 points. They got 18 points more share than 8 years ago. So the working class, regardless of their race, is moving towards the Republicans, while the Democrats are becoming this more effete, elite, professional class party, this woke elite party. And, I think Biden sort of is caught in the middle of this. And I think he's running out of time to try and reestablish that he's going to have a centrist presidency that does not completely kowtow and defer to the left of his party, to this sort of woke elite thinking. You see Democratic political scientists like Roy Teixeira writing about this like every week, saying, this is your last chance. This is your moment to save your presidency. And I don't know if